stole Ehud already, though. That's fucked up.
What's that? I didn't steal him. I'm just borrowing him. We're sharing him now.
Damn. It's kind of like a romantic relationship, though. It's kind of weird. I don't know how I feel about an open relationship.
How long have you known Ehud?
About, what, 20 years?
I've known Mark longer.
Really?
I met Mark
2005. Yep.
And I started working with you 2008, so he's got 3 years.
So you got dibs. Well, that's cool. I could share him. Only thing is, I don't know if Suzette will let him out of the house.
Yeah, there's that.
You know,
That's the girlfriend.
I had to finally just start taking my wife with me. We're not taping this, right?
We are, but you can tell me when you want to start.
Okay, well, not starting yet. Yeah. Oh, dude. Well, it was a tour where I was kicked off my own bus. I'm never allowed on any Beat the Street bus ever
Why?
again.
Can we start, though?
Because I punched the bus driver in the head.
What happened?
Well, we were pulled over going into Switzerland, you know, the only country where they fucking stop you besides Croatia.
Uh-huh.
And I wake up and they're fucking going through my pants pockets.
The weird Swiss
Yeah.
police.
And I get up and I'm like, what the fuck? And we had an extra driver because it was a long drive. And this motherfucking extra driver goes, we're all standing out in front of the bus, you know, and he just out of the blue says to these customs agents, I don't have any drugs. They might in the back, which of course I did.
Jeez, man. What a sellout.
And I'm like, dude, you motherfucker. Because he's such an idiot, too. If they find drugs on the bus.
He's busted, too.
And the bus belongs to Switzerland now.
Right.
You know what I
that's
mean?
Wild.
They take all your shit.
Why did he do that? Did you ask him?
I didn't have a chance to ask him, but when we got back on the bus, there was a little space between where he was sitting and where the steps went up, and I just leaned in and punched him in the face as hard as I could from the side.
Damn.
And before that drive was done, I was banned from Beat the Street. They let my band keep the bus, though. But
that's weird.
So I had to take trains, planes,
and automobiles. As it turns out.
For the rest of that tour. And sometime in that tour also.
What tour was that? That was a couple of years ago?
No, that was like in 2005.
Oh, 2005.
2004, 2005, something like that. And luckily I had Nick Oliveri opening for me, so he stepped in and became my rhythm guitar player. But then, of course, you know, I had to open up my door in the middle of the... Oh, by the way, my girlfriend also hospitalized for like 2 weeks with some major, like, life-threatening blood infection in Scotland, so I had to leave her there.
Right.
So it was just... That was one tour, yeah.
That's wild.
All that shit happened in one tour.
That's crazy. Has it calmed down over recent years, or is it still chaotic?
It calmed down when I quit hiring American guys to be in my band.
Oh, really? God
damn it, I'm covered with fucking hair. Yeah, dude. I mean, you know, I was a mess back then, and everyone in my band was too. So now half my band are Belgian guys. They used to be all Belgians, but my guitar player quit, and my wife started playing with me again. So
when you play in Belgium, do you play botanique?
I usually play the AB, or I play the Tricks in Antwerp.
Oh, okay. Bigger places, I guess. I'm always at the Botanique or the Rotonde or whatever, that thing, and then the other bigger room there.
Hey, the Botanique's great, man.
Yeah.
I've had some great shows there, but like 20 years ago.
Yeah. I'm still at that level, man. I'm trying to creep out of it.
All you got to do is hire Belgian dudes to play in your band. You're immediately a fucking star there.
How did you do that?
Well, I had one friend of mine had been in my band since, you know, I had the American guys, and he was a Belgian dude.
Yeah.
And he was the only guy that stayed in my band the entire time and just became like my band leader.
Mm-hmm. What instrument?
He plays keyboards and guitar.
Right.
And he was in a pretty popular Belgian band at that time called Millionaire.
Oh, okay.
And I met him when they were out opening for the Queens, when I was playing with them. And I hadn't made any records for like 8 years. I was doing stuff with Greg and Isabel Campbell and this British band called Soul Savers. I was doing a bunch of other stuff. I wasn't like really doing my own records.
I forgot about Soul Savers. Amazing album with them.
Oh, thanks. And in 2012, I got a job making a song for a fucking trailer for a video game. And
Which one?
this game called Rage.
I played it.
It was for
It's a great game.
it was for quite a bit of dough. And at the time, I was working as a scenic painter, like on TV sets.
Oh, right. I remember that.
And but this song came together really easily, and I did it with Alan Johannes, who had done like the record I'd made 8 years earlier.
Which one?
That was Bubblegum.
Okay, Bubblegum.
And
he plays with Queens too.
he did, yeah.
Yeah.
On and off.
Co-wrote a bunch of that stuff too, right?
He did, yeah. And engineered one or two of their records as well.
Right.
But yeah, it just was time to make a record, and once I was done with it, I sent it to my one bandmate I still had left, who was my Belgian guy, Aldo Struff, and I told him, find me the 3 best guys you can in Belgium,
Right.
and that's going to be the band. And so that's...
Well, that was it's like, because a lot of times people do that. They'll have like a European band and an American band, but then you just had a European band and that was your band,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And, I'd never... And right about then, I started playing more in the States, too, so it was really kind of backfired. But still, Europe is, really the only market that I'm
Right.
viable in, so it just makes sense to have them over there.
Yeah. Why? Oh, well, I guess Belgium, because you knew that guy.
That's why, yeah. And
Yeah.
also, there's a thing about Belgian musicians. In general, they're pretty serious about music, and they have, like, all of them that I know, and I know quite a few, have, like, a vast knowledge of all these different kinds of music, and they're really serious about playing as well as they can.
Mm-hmm.
So I went from, like, bands that were basically my drug buddies that didn't give a damn about anything.
Like in America.
Exactly.
Americans have no respect.
That's what I'm talking about, American guys.
Yeah.
And to these guys who were ultra serious, and they just, walked in and they knew the songs, bang,
Right.
and all I had to do was go out and sing them.
I think it's like just down to like also, yeah, they I don't know how to say this without seeming like I'm putting down people from Europe or something. But it's like kind of like they know it's a big opportunity or something, or they see the opportunity, whereas maybe American people are just more spoiled or something on some level, or just to take things for granted a bit more.
Yeah, I will say this. They don't get a lot of opportunity to even play outside of their country.
Right.
Like, I have some friends that I met through Dooley that he
Yeah.
used to play with after hours.
Right. Oh, in
Probably like
Italy.
like the most popular Italian rock band.
Yeah. Great rock and roll band.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But, they don't really play outside of Italy. So that would be like just playing in Oregon,
Right.
and only Oregon.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then here comes somebody that can take them all over the world.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I remember I spoke with you a couple of years ago about touring, and you said you preferred the European markets also because of ticket sales and fan enthusiasm, and you just go more places and more people see you and you feel the love out there. Not that the American people don't love you.
It's just a lot less of them do.
Right. And it counts. Numbers count, unfortunately.
The reason I said those things, Ehud, is because you always enjoy the place where they enjoy you.
Yeah, go with where the enthusiasm is.
Yeah.
That's what Peter Gabriel said to me a long time ago. And I always remember that.
That's good advice.
It goes with everything,
Yeah.
including like dating.
Yeah, that's good life advice for
It's
sure.
really good life advice, man.
Is that why you keep going back to Tel Aviv?
I will always go back to Tel Aviv. It's
Enthusiastic people.
yeah, and the merch, bang,
Merch.
just out the door. No,
Yeah.
the audiences there are fantastic. Even after they caught me ripping off one of their songs, there was this song that like in 2001, I made a record called Field Songs, and I had heard this record called Hard Rock in the Middle East, and there was this song in there, I guess probably sung in Hebrew, and I totally ripped it off, like melody, phrasing, chords, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said to my guitar player at the time, Mike Johnson, no one's going to get this, is he? He's like, fuck no one's ever going to get that. And this is kind of, before, like, I think I even had a laptop at that time, but like somebody sent an actual letter to my manager. Hey, is this just a coincidence, or did Mark rip off this song? Turns out like it was, I don't know, the Israeli national anthem or something.
Wow.
So then I went there with Greg, and then I was sitting like, waiting to go up and do my guest spot or whatever, and some girl comes walking through the little dressing room area between the office and the stage, and she starts singing something to me, and they're making noise outside the door. I can't really hear it, and she goes, "You know what I'm singing?" And I listen, and she's singing that fucking song.
It's haunting you now.
Yeah. So then I went back with Dave Rosser, the late great Dave Rosser.
Rest in peace.
God,
Two years.
2 years
this
ago.
month.
Yeah, this month. That's right.
it's hard to believe. But he and I went back and played just as a duo, and
You guys did a bunch of tours like that, right?
oh yeah, we
Yeah.
toured. We toured all over the world together, just two of us.
What a great guy, huh?
The best guy ever.
Best guitar player, too.
Yeah. The only guy I ever knew that remained friends with every one of his ex-girlfriends.
Yeah.
Good friends.
Uh-huh. That's true.
That kind of guy.
He's an American, and he got it.
That's true.
So there are the odd Americans that get it.
Yeah. I was generalizing.
Yeah.
You can call him your band member. He qualifies.
He does. Yeah, he actually was my only band member for quite a few tours. But
yeah.
before we played that song in Israel, I said, "This is a song that I borrowed from you people."
That's funny.
And when we hit the middle bridge, they all sang the Hebrew version of it.
That's great. That's amazing.
It was incredible.
But you embraced it, so then they probably loved it more and loved you for it.
Well, I tried to deny it for years. Like, I don't know what the fuck. It's a coincidence.
Then you leaned into it.
Yeah, I had to.
I mean, like, all this, like, the music business is really tough and everything, and we got to, like, deal with merch, and we're just talking about, like, you got to shake hands and this, that, and the other. But on
Get to shake hands, Joe.
yeah, we get to. Sorry. I don't know what I was thinking right there. It got late. No, we get to shake hands, yeah. But like, I don't know, like, don't you kind of love it in a way too? Like, don't you think it kind of like sort of makes you more energy? Like, I feel like just being with you or just hearing you talk about it or whatever, like, you seem to like almost like love it, even though it's maybe harder. But compared to like '90s where like things are just sort of given to you, this, that, and the other, and we're like, but like now you kind of have to sort of like be industrious and thoughtful and like kind of like and sort of engage different aspects of your mental capacity, like think in terms of more marketing, and that's kind of fun, right? Like, well, it's on some level.
It's just, it's just all out of necessity. When people stop buying records,
right,
then suddenly a huge, portion of your potential income is gone. So you have to get creative. But for me, the best thing that really happened, when I started like going out to the merch table and signing stuff and interacting with fans, which I hadn't done all during the 90s. I probably talked to maybe 2 fans.
Right.
So I wasn't very good at it at first, but
yeah, what was that like when you first did it? How weird was that?
Oh man,
well, you're a little intimidating to people who don't know you.
Yeah, you're intimidating to people who do know you.
That's only sometimes.
Yeah, only if you feel like it.
The best thing that happened was it made me interact with people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
Yeah,
be a real person,
yeah,
and just, you know.
I guess that's what I mean too. Just on a larger point, like it's just, yeah, like because like okay, we were talking too about podcasting, for instance, as a mode of like, okay, like how are we going to survive as artists in this day and age? You have to sort of branch out and do other things and be inventive, and or even if you're like being inventive in a way that a million other people are being inventive by starting a podcast, for instance, or whatever. You know, like, but it's kind of fun. I mean, I sort of dig it. Like, I'm glad I'm not just like in some ivory tower with like, saying that I'm not so sure I might be lying right now, because I was about to say with like money just pouring in. That sounds kind of nice actually, but no, it is fun being out in life, you know, coming to your house to do a podcast, or like, you know, or you meet fans, and sometimes it is like energetically draining, it can be, but at the same time too, I've met so many really cool people, and then like sometimes you have a shit gig and you go out and you shake hands and it's like everyone is so like loves it, and you completely change your perspective, you know, that kind of thing.
That happens all the time to
Right.
me. The thing that happens most often is like the people that got a real heavy story, like they're only here because their dad or their brother or their husband was such a big fan, and they've just passed away or something.
Right.
You know, they'd be crying while they tell this story. That happens all the time, and it's you know, it's kind of hard to think that your music is something that, you know, affects other people the way that the music you loved affected you. But at some point, when you have enough of those experiences, you just kind of have to say, wow, it's, you know, it's humbling for sure.
Yeah. I find like when people say stuff like that to me, I kind of like almost disengage on some level, like I'm witnessing it and it doesn't really strike me as they're talking to me. Does that happen to you?
That's happening to me right now.
That's because I'm a shitty podcaster.
No, of course, yeah, you know. I mean, there are those times like when this one experience comes to mind. Like, I think it was in San Francisco. This woman just like had to not only tell me like the entire story of her life, but her son's life, and and it got to a point where like there's still, you know, 50, 75 people waiting to come up there, and she's been up there for 20 minutes now, you know, and it's like, how do I get out of this? But
how do you get out of it?
well, you just say, get this fucking person.
You need a tour manager for that.
You just get the security guy to yank him outside and kick the shit out of him.
Right.
No. But yeah, of course, when it happens every other day,
Right. It's draining.
It can be.
It can be. I don't mean to be negative, but it like, you know, I don't know.
But it's where the bread is buttered.
That's true. Are you an empath, do you think?
I would never even think about it.
That's probably healthy.
I don't think about too many things too deeply, Joe.
You don't?
No.
Why not? You seem so deep.
That's
an illusion.
That's the costume of persona.
I don't know if that's true. You got such a deep voice. It's like the voice comes from somewhere in the soul.
It comes from the cigarettes.
Nah. You didn't. You just started. Oh, I don't want to bust you on that.
Yeah.
Podcast.
It's already.
It's out of the bag.
It's out of the bag. Yeah. 10 years.
Well, how long have you started again?
You know, it's been almost 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Right around the time Dave.
Right.
Now that I think about it. Not that that's why I started again, but. Yep. But hey, I smoked, you know, non-filtered smokes for 30 years, and I've smoked Camel Crush for 2 years. So.
Don't admit that.
They're on the table.
So, when did you decide to write a memoir? Was that 2 years ago, or was that?
I did this book of lyrics well, first off, somebody offered me we'll make these lyric books for you for, I don't know, $5,000 or whatever, and we'll give you so many of them, you can sell them at the merch table. And I thought, and this was at a time when I was pressing my own vinyl and, basically selling that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, book, like to have your own book made, that's kind of lame.
Why?
It's not rock and roll.
Yeah, it's just,
Hell, it's not. Lou Reed has a book.
Well, these days.
Yeah, but they didn't make them themselves. They got them through book companies.
Oh yeah, that's true. But we're, we got to be more industrious.
I know.
That's the whole point.
So cut to 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years later, when I had the $5,000, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll get some books made.
Mm-hmm.
And I called a guy I knew that worked in the book industry, and I said, how do I go about getting some books made? And
This was lyrics.
Yeah.
Just a collection of lyrics.
Yeah, just to sell at the merch table.
A selection or a whole comprehensive?
Everything that I had written by myself.
Okay.
Like there's, the songs that I'd written with Josh from Queens, or I'd
Right.
co-written with lyrics with the guys from the Trees, or with Greg for the Gutter Twins. I didn't put any of that stuff in, just the stuff that I, wrote myself.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, fuck that. I'll get my book company to do it, and we'll pay you $50,000. So I was like,
wow.
Seduced, bang.
Yeah.
And
I would be seduced by that too.
But then after I signed it, I realized that's when they clued me in that I hadn't checked out the small print, that it also included writings. And I was like, what? Writings? What do you mean? I was like, small sections of writings about, what was going on when you were making these records. And I was like, oh, fuck, no. That just seemed
After you signed?
After I signed, yeah.
Did you do any creative writing besides lyrics, or so is that a whole new domain, or is that something you do anyway?
That is something I have never done.
Because you're not that deep.
I'm not.
I write all the damn time.
I'm sure.
I'm starting to get to think I'm deep.
Well, you're an artist, Joe.
And you're not?
I'm a breakfast cook
Oh, come on.
that's been singing for a while.
Man.
No, so I did have to write these little sections, and I had a couple of friends who were, best-selling authors, I guess you would say, and one of them in particular really leaned on me to write a memoir. Said, you can do this, and it'll be great, and you'll get rid of all these ghosts and all this. It's going to be such a positive experience, and so I did it, and
So it started as like introductions to lyrics, but then it expanded into a full-on memoir.
well, that went into that book.
Oh, okay.
And then the memoir, I wrote, he talked me into writing a prologue, this friend of mine, and I did it and sent it to him, and he said, yeah, man, you have to do this book. And so, same book company that did the lyric book gave me a deal for this other book.
Mm-hmm.
And
Did you read all the fine print on the second contract?
I didn't.
One, it was a memoir, but you also had to include lyrics. It was like
There'd
a
be
reversal.
small sections of lyrics.
Included a nude photo spread.
That's for my next book, just photography. Anyway, so I was sending him, these chapters as I was getting them done, and then I had this other guy who was a friend of mine who was also a best-selling memoirist who was going through my stuff, and they were being really enthusiastic, and basically I found out everything that had been promised was bullshit. It was probably the most unpleasant thing I've ever done.
Writing the memoir or dealing with the company, or both?
Just the memoir itself.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it was just like,
it's brutal.
Dude, I was not prepared for shit I hadn't thought about in 25 years,
Right.
And, I mean, you sort of have to...
Family of origin.
You got to protect yourself when you go, walking through fucking
The past.
memories. It's can be wilderness of
ghetto.
horrors.
Yeah. It's a ghetto with people with crowbars and shit ready to hit
dude.
you over the head, dude.
I know.
Yeah.
And there was some of that. Both me wielding the crowbar and getting hit with one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't very. It was just a lot of, you know. It was like being buried under a mountain of bad memories daily, and so I just wrote it as fast as I could.
Right.
And
How in the morning or what?
I'd get up in the morning. Some days I'd do 12 straight hours and realize I hadn't even like had a drink of water or fucking walked around or
Isn't
anything.
that wild?
Yeah, it was crazy because I'd never written anything like that before.
Mm-hmm. And it just poured out of you.
Yeah, but also, you know, it doesn't just pour out of you once. You have to go over it a few times.
That's the part.
It's the fucking like the making it literature.
Yeah.
If it wasn't going to be, if it wasn't going to be, this makes me sound like a snob, but if it wasn't going to be literature, there was no point in doing it.
No, it just it means you just like having a high quality in what you put out there.
Well, I mean, there's a million terrible fucking rock biographies, and I mean, I've read a few of them, and
I enjoyed Tommy Lee's.
I didn't read Tommy's.
I'm just joking.
I stopped reading them in the 80s. I think John Phillips'
Yeah.
book was the last one I read, and it was pretty heavy.
Oh yeah.
You know, the Mamas and the Papas.
Yeah.
He didn't include his child abuse stuff in there, but
Yeah.
there was plenty of other darkness.
It's weird. Did you feel like that sort of survivor's guilt, or like you were betraying people or betraying like abusive people when you would write about it and stuff like that? Was there like mixed emotions with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
Because during the period of time that I was writing about, you know, my closest friends pretty much didn't make it through there. And then, yeah, you know, like the familial stuff that came up.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I was just like, oh, damn. You know, I was going to give these people a pass, but I can't because...
Right, because then then it's not a story, and it's not your story.
Well,
what are you doing?
And also, yeah, then I just like, I formed in a vacuum. You know what I mean?
Right.
It had to have begun somewhere. So
Right.
yeah, that was heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there'll be some family members of mine that won't be talking to me again. But
Yeah, I got some of that going on, for sure. Just for like being, you know, like, yeah, because you're like at a certain point, you're like, I can just be locked in silence and just sort of become a diminishing version of myself, or I can express who and what I am and where I've came from and expand the universe that wants to expand through me, and also then in that way be of service to other people or not. And what, you know, and there's no sort, it's like the Dylan line, you're busy being born or you're busy dying. You're either like, there's no middle ground there. You can't sort of like skirt around it. You're either telling your story or you're not.
and that was it. That was the exact position that I finally came upon.
Right.
And I had to go in, you know, and also, you know, these guys who, I was lucky to have the guidance of these gentlemen who had written books before. Right. And, you know, they just said, just lay it all out there, man. And then, you know, at the end of it, if you don't want the shit in there, then you just take it out. Mm-hmm. And, but once I started going in, I just had to go all the way in. And so
it's like a bloodletting.
It's
now that it's done, you don't feel a relief or better about the whole thing, that it's just out?
I feel really glad that it's done. I actually have.
Is it out yet?
Oh, fuck. Was I supposed to send it today? No, it's not coming out till next year. I just got done doing the copy edited version, which is a stack of paper that they send it to you on, where you go through and, you know, they check for typos or
right,
this kind of stuff. I just got done going through that. I have to send it back.
How did you learn? I mean, the art of memoir is deep. I mean, have you ever read anything by that guy Karl Ove Knausgaard?
No.
Man, you check out his book. He wrote like 6-7 volumes, I think, of like his life story that are all, each one's like 1,000 pages, and it's like this exhaustive written history of his whole life, where his like, you know, his wife ended up going into a mental asylum apparently because of this. A lot of his family disowned him. It's like it's the most extreme version of what we're talking about. And he became, I think he's Norwegian, and he became a huge sensation, like just like the Beatles of writing over there and stuff like that.
Wow.
He became a star over here too. But it's all memoir stuff, and it's intense. It's like and it's called, and he named it Mein Kampf.
Oh shit!
Volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, like my struggle.
Yeah,
that's what he called it. So it's intense. I've read a bunch of them, but when I say I've read, I've listened to them on audiobooks.
Oh man,
yeah,
I got to start doing that,
dude. That's how I read nowadays.
Well,
by listening.
This is the reason I wear glasses, is because I fucking used to watch TV shows on my phone.
Right. Yeah.
And then
I need to get a Kindle or something.
And I realized I couldn't even read a newspaper.
Yeah, because that blue light will crush you. So how did you learn to write a memoir? Just through just you did it and that's it, or did you have editing help? Any like?
I did. Yeah, I had. You know,
the friends.
Yeah.
But they were encouraging you. But were they actually participating in, like, you were reading
like,
to
them? Were they rewriting my shit? You mean?
No, I'm not even saying that. Like, Karl Ove is an example, because I've actually like kind of got obsessed with him for a second. So he had like a friend or whatever who he would write all day, like do like the 10-hour writing days, and then read every single thing he wrote that day every night to this guy. Like, did you have that?
I had that.
Okay, that's important. That's important.
It was really important for me, and the guy doing it for me was not only a best-selling memoirist, but he's also a writing instructor at Yale.
See,
so
that's incredible. Who is that guy?
His name's Mishka Shubely. And
how did you connect with him?
I connected with him because he wrote something, wrote an article about bubblegum like years after it came out, and then made sure that I saw it on Twitter, like sent it to me or something, and I just became aware of him. Actually, he just sort of like insinuated himself into my life, but he asked me, can I send you my book? And he did, and I didn't read it. And then like 4 months later, he's like, hey, man, have you read my book?
What did you think of my book? And you're like, oh.
I was like,
what'd you say?
I said, I haven't read it yet, man.
Well, at least you're honest.
But I will. And I read it in like 2 days. And
it suddenly became a homework assignment.
But actually,
but a fun one.
Yeah, you know, it started out that way, but then it was actually, you know, a lot of it was about his struggle with alcohol and how he got past that, and he had a lot of, you know, crazy experiences outside of that as well. But it was a real interesting read, and it just started because he was a fan of my music. He's also a musician,
right?
But yeah, I had him in my corner.
That's amazing, because that I find like you can get really motivated to write every day, knowing that you have that partner that you're going to read it to, and I mean, listen, man, we're like, at the end of the day, we're kids, and we want that like pat on the back too, like, good job, good job, Mark. You know, like, but seriously, like, it's funny, but it's true. Like because you're doing that deep soul work, and you kind of need like a high five at the. I mean, right?
Yeah, you do, but you don't always get it. I mean,
yeah.
I have like my 5 guys that I send my records to before they come out. Dooley's one of them.
Right.
And I know that if
Dooley's tough though.
He is tough. That's
I'm scared to send him my record. Sometimes he loves him. Sometimes I don't hear from him. Sometimes it's crickets.
Yeah, when you don't hear from him, that's when you know he's not so psyched about it.
I know.
But I always get by that by
Shout out to Greg.
No, love Greg. Shout out to Greg. And and it's good to have those, like honest people in your life. But anyway,
I always have Greg sing on every one of my records too,
So
so I kind of get past it.
Right,
he has to enjoy it.
he's singing on 2 of my new songs, actually.
That's the way to get him on your side.
Yeah.
I learned that a long time ago. Now, one thing that I did find, because I was showing these things I wrote every day to an actual writing instructor, was that, a lot of times I was doing shit that was incorrect,
Right.
and so it was a lot. I didn't get a lot of pats on the back. I got a lot of battling, like, like, man, this is incorrect writing.
Oh, really?
And I was like, well, that's the way I'm doing it, dude. And
Right.
finally, he would always come around and he'd say, you know what, you shouldn't be able to get away with this, but you got away with it. Like telling a backstory within a fucking chapter or something,
Right.
just, I guess, shit that's
Not okay, or not the rules or whatever.
right. But apparently I got away with it, so.
Well, that's cool. That's so interesting. And so that, are you nervous about its release, like because of the fallout with like family of origin or anything like that, or is it just like?
Well, I'll probably never be able to go back to Washington State.
Yeah, I haven't gone.
All of it,
Bro. I don't go. I miss Ohio. I haven't gone back in years, dude. Shout out to Akron, Ohio, but it's been a minute, and I don't like. I used to play Thanksgiving every year, bro.
Yeah.
That's good. We can laugh about it.
All my in-laws just moved back to Ohio.
Huh?
All my in-laws just moved back to Ohio, Toledo.
Well, maybe you'll go to Ohio and I'll go to Washington.
Well, you'll definitely get a better reception there than I will after this book comes out.
Right.
But, what can you do? I'm 50,
Yeah.
54, so
Right.
who really gives a damn?
where will this memoir be available for anyone who wants to get it?
I'm sure you'll be able to find it on Amazon or in some. Do bookstores exist anymore?
I don't know. The Strand.
Yeah,
in New
Barnes
York.
and Noble.
Barnes and Noble. yeah.
What company's putting it out?
It's a company called Da Capo.
That's a huge one. I mean, I've heard of it. There's a quote. There's a quote for your book, by the way.
I've heard of
That's
it.
a huge one.
Joe
I
Arthur.
mean, I've heard of it.
That's it. You just gave me the best.
That's my
best
quote for you,
blurb.
bro. That's the blurb right there.
Where's my phone?
But
I don't
that's
want
on
to
the,
forget that one.
that's on the, that's
I'll
on the
get
front
out the
cover.
podcast. Da Capo. They're huge.
That's
I
on-
fucking never heard of them.
I mean, I've heard of it. That's the special blurb that goes on the front cover.
That's the blurb. That's too good.
Fuck's sake. What's it called?
It's called Sing Backwards and Weep.
Wow. Dude.
Why?
Why? That's a great title, man.
It's the line out of one of my songs.
That's wild. Sing backwards and weep. That's heavy.
So it's lighthearted stuff.
Yeah, it's real lighthearted. That's heavy. It's beautiful though too. It is, man. It is. I'm impressed with that because honestly, I've written about 1,000 pages of a memoir myself, and I haven't. Like, it's just sitting there like a train wreck in my computer. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like I haven't gone back through. And like sometimes I'll send it to someone and say, "Hey, will you help me edit this book?" And that's when I just never hear from the person again.
That doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, I sort of assumed that, I mean, you're so multifaceted. I assumed that you'd probably had a book or two laying around somewhere.
Yeah, I want to get to it. But I need to find.
You were working on it for a while.
Yeah.
I remember you were writing nonstop.
Yeah. And I'll get back to it. Actually, this will really inspire me, I think, too.
Dude, if a dipshit like me can do it,
Yeah, right.
a genius like you.
Oh, bro, you're the genius.
No, you are.
Man.
All right, let's have a cigarette, Joe.
Okay. We got to go outside and pause.
Do we have to pause? How long?
Or can we have one right now?
I could go. You can smoke inside.
Can we have
if you
one
want.
smoke inside?
If I smoked inside, my ass would
Let's
be
take a
kicked.
5-minute break then.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break.
Sweet.
All right.
God, how long do you guys do?
Oh, we can go for like 4 hours, no problem.
We started talking about
You said you were a night owl. You don't know who you're dealing with here.
Rarity was like, get out of here after 20 minutes.
No.
I like your grill though.
Yes, was, it was out of necessity.
It's dope looking though.
I tried,
The gold is a good choice.
well, I
Not
had,
everybody can pull off the gold.
I had the porcelain in the past, and it just broke like my teeth, so
Mhm.
I decided to go with something stronger.
It looks good.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Since we just talked about it outside, can you just mention again how you first met Greg and started working with him?
I first met Greg,
Greg Dooley
Greg Dooley.
for the kids at home. Afghan wig.
First, I had
Twilight Singers.
I had an imaginary I felt that he had dissed me, like early '90s.
Mm-hmm. How'd
He-
that happen?
He came up and said hello to me,
Well, there you go. I mean, if that's not offensive, I don't know what is.
and I was like, "Who is that guy?"
Thinks he can just say hi.
Yeah, just come walking up to me in a bar in Chicago and say hello. What the fuck? Who's this guy think he is? So then I had this imaginary beef with Greg for years and never saw him anywhere.
Right.
But I always was looking for him.
Yeah.
And then I was living here in Los Angeles, and I went back to Seattle, and Greg was still living up there. And I was doing a live radio thing in the studio
Mm-hmm.
that was near his house, and there was maybe 20 guests.
Was it KEXP?
It may have been, but it wasn't in their studio. It was in an actual recording studio where I was working with Martin Fevier.
Which one? Do you remember?
I can't remember what it was called, but it was out in that part of town where Greg lived.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of that part of town either. That's a crazy thing, man. You live in a city for 10 years, and then you just forget how to get from one place to another, or what the different neighborhoods are called.
Right.
It's nuts. When I go back to Seattle, I'm sort of like, where am I?
Yeah.
But he was one of the guests there, and I thought that was cool because he was aware of my imaginary beef.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
How'd he catch on to that?
Because I told everyone who knew him that next time I saw him,
Wow. Just based on a hello.
that's it.
That was it.
But
You must have sensed something in the hello.
I sense a bit of cockiness.
Well, there's probably a alpha male, feeling another alpha male out type of thing.
Yeah, we we recognize each other.
Yeah, exactly.
But he awoke in me something that day, and but then it was diminished when I saw him.
Right.
And then I was living down here. I was back down here, and he was living here. And a mutual friend said, Greg wants to get together with you. And I went over. He was living with Charles at that time down in Echo Park. And
Charles who?
Charles is
Charles in charge.
Charles is partner in all of his bars and businesses and all the
Okay.
stuff that keeps Greg afloat.
Yeah.
Greg doesn't have to do music because he is a businessman.
Yeah.
But he had this fucking song that he said he wrote for me, and he gave it to me and on a CD, and we ended up hanging out for 4 hours that day, and just immediately hit it off. And
Was that for Twilight?
it was a song that he had done as a demo for the Twilight Singers, and then decided to give to me. And of course I listened to it, and I was like, okay, well, I obviously can't put this on my record because it's a better song than any of mine. You know what I mean?
He is good at writing songs, isn't he? He's good with the words too.
People will
dude.
know this isn't mine.
Yeah, I was
that's
like-
funny.
I was like, okay, well, this is going to have to wait. And so then when we did Gutter Twins, we tried to do a version of it then, and it just wasn't happening. And then finally, I was in 13 or something, I was doing a covers record,
Mm-hmm.
and I finally did a version of it.
What song is it?
It's called Deepest Shade,
Oh, okay.
and now it's like, you know, my signature tune.
Right. That's cool.
It's a great song, and Greg said it brought tears to his eyes when he heard it, and then he immediately said, "But what happened to my solo? What happened to my piano solo? Why isn't it in there?" I said, "Oh fuck, we forgot about that."
What are the lyrics on it?
Oh man, they're beautiful. It's like a beautiful soul song. And then I'm not going to sing to you here a cappella.
No, okay.
But
I was going for that. Angling for a little acapella
A
moment.
little snippet.
A little
taste. A
snippet.
little taste one.
Duff McKagan just made a really great record called Tenderness. And
He keeps name dropping, not name dropping, but like referencing as influences you and Greg. I think that's really cool.
well, Duff is like, you know, he's another guy like Greg who's been a real good friend to me.
Yeah.
And he's been doing that song that Greg wrote, Deepest Shade, in his sets,
That's cool.
which is really cool, yeah.
He's an interesting character. The fact that he became like a sort of financial genius or whatever and it's something I think about too, because that's an area of my life that's still pretty confusing and mysterious to me. And he's inspiring just knowing that he's done that. I was wondering if you got inspired in a similar way, like we were talking about the merch thing, but just even in knowing the intricacies of business, the way Duff has
Well, he went,
mastered that.
after his first stint in guns, he went to business school,
Right.
and then he invested in property.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure it's the kind of property that they put a Ralph's and a Starbucks and all that shit on.
Mm-hmm.
And then whoever owns that property gets paid rent by those businesses for ever.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure he owns
A few of those.
a few of those
That's nice.
around California at least. And of course now with the Guns N' Roses,
Back in full force.
dude, they're, yeah.
Have you been to one of their shows recently?
Hey, buddy.
Well, I opened 4 of them.
Really? I
How'd that
didn't know
go?
Last year, I got off just in time, right before stuff was about to get thrown at me.
Oh, really? You were confusing the fans a little
It
bit.
went that well.
Yeah, I could sense it. It was just about to. Stuff was just about
to turn.
right when I got off of there. So I made it out alive. But it was great seeing them.
Yeah.
I mean, really incredible. I had never seen them back in the day. Of course, you couldn't help but see their videos and hear their music and all that stuff. But,
Yeah.
but actually seeing them now, play for 3 hours and,
Yeah.
I went
Those-
to a bunch of those. Yeah.
it was amazing.
Yeah, even when it was Axl in the 3-guitar onslaught that was none of the other real members or whatever.
Bumblefoot.
Dude, I gotta
Tommy
say,
Stinson.
I thought those were killer shows. I saw one at Governor's Island, and I was
Yeah,
expecting it to be like I was expecting to go and be kind of like, okay, but it blew me away. I was like, okay, this rocks,
Wow.
But I'm sure with the actual members of the band,
Is it true they're recording new music?
That I don't know.
I heard they are.
It would make sense.
Yeah,
I certainly would.
I would too.
Although the way it's going with those guys, I mean, I'm sure they could just play the same songs that they've been playing
Mm-hmm.
and fill giant stadiums. I mean, we were playing in front of like 70, maybe 80,000 people, like huge
That's
soccer
amazing.
stadiums in Europe.
What was that like? Was that the most you've ever played in front of? Well, you did with the Queens of the Stone Age. Probably played some huge gigs too. But that was like,
I played a lot of festivals, like even in the 90s with the Trees,
Yeah.
like, Reading, Roskilde, some of those are like 60, 70,000 people.
mm-hmm.
So, but those shows are like playing in front of nobody, really, because they're so big, it's not.
Right.
I'd rather play in front of that many people that I don't know than in front of like 20 people that I do know.
Yeah, it's more nerve-wracking playing in front of 20 people in a little room than it is playing in front of like 50,000 people.
Way more nerve-wracking.
It is, because there's just such a disconnect when there's a sea of people. It takes the stakes away on some level.
It does.
Because it's like, there's so much mythology. You're a huge cartoon character at that point in some ways.
For me, it's just like playing in front of nobody. It's like rehearsing. Because usually when my band's up there, not too many people are paying strict attention.
Right.
And B, I'm usually playing like 20, 30 minutes top. So unless it's like a festival, my band does, festivals every summer in Europe, and not always huge ones like those, but always much bigger than you'd play in a
but like a not
club.
Huge festival, still 5,000, 10,000 people or something like. It's still huge.
Yeah, even if you're like in the tent at Pukkelpop, you're playing in front of 20,000 people.
Yeah.
So, which I've done with Rosser, just he and I.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's a bunch of recordings of those shows with Rosser that you ended up pressing or selling. Some were acoustic, some were electric, right? It was different tours.
Yeah, we switched it up after a while. We started by doing acoustic stuff, and then towards the end, Dave was playing electric. I still do that stuff with my new guitar player, Jeff Fielder. Just like in the off years when I'm not, when I don't have a band record. But, I mean, Dave and I toured, Europe in a car and just laughed every minute of every day. It was the most fun I ever had. And we also did it with Greg, the three of us. Toured the entire world, like went from the States to South America to Europe to Australia, all in one trip. They're a lot more, what it's like playing by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
It's so much more.
I seem to always wind up back alone on stage.
But there's no overhead.
Yeah. There's something about it that's like, it's got its advantages as well. You can kind of just guide it wherever you want without, confirming that with anybody else.
There's no discussion over
There's no
what the set list is
discussion.
going to be.
I mean, sometimes with yourself. I was thinking about the time I met Greg. It was like with Mike Napolitano in Soho, New York City, and Greg had listened to my album "Come to Where I'm From," which is the name of this podcast. But there's a song on there called "Speed of Light," where it's like "Hello" or "Good Night, New Orleans." That's what the lyric starts, and he thought that I had lived in New Orleans, and so that's how we bonded. I was like, "No, man, that's just a lyric in the song. I've never even been to New Orleans." That changed, of course. I ended up spending a lot of time there, but yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, Greg is one of a kind. I'm fucking lucky to know him.
Yeah, I feel that way too. Ohio. He's another Ohioan.
I've been to his house in Hamilton, Ohio.
But so you grew up like in Seattle, but like there was like a desert town in Seattle. I just heard that I was like,
it's Eastern Washington. It's all like a desert.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I never thought about Washington having a desert.
All of Eastern Washington is like high desert.
Mm-hmm.
Like Joshua Tree, small scrub brushes.
Yeah.
No real trees.
Do you think that's what pushed you into becoming creative and going into what you've gone into, the environment being sort of void of something else to do, or what do you? Because a lot of musicians come out of places like that. Like I'm from Akron, Ohio. It's kind of, there's for certain types not much else to do but get creative.
Yeah, I fell into it. I didn't really know what I wanted to do ever, but I knew I didn't want to do it there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always kind of looking for a way to get out of there. And
it wasn't going to be like, I'm going to become a lawyer.
No, not with my below D- average in high school. No, that wasn't going to happen. I actually did graduate high school, but it was with a phony diploma because my old man was a teacher at my high school, so some of his friends cooked up like...
That's interesting.
Cook the books.
Yep.
Did you get bullied because you had, parents as teachers or anything like that? Or
Come on, Joe.
I mean, I know you didn't.
Maybe once.
Yeah.
You get bullied.
You were a fighter.
You just fucking throw down immediately.
Yeah.
It's the only way to stop those kind of assholes.
Yeah.
But no, my dad was not like a regular teacher. He had a specialty job.
Oh, okay.
Where he, I guess you would call it work study, would find jobs for people out in the community, students. So half the day they would be in his classroom, and then half the day they would be out working a job.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just like a certain percentage of the student body that was part of that system.
So it didn't really factor in to your life then?
He didn't really. Nobody hated my dad, and so took it out on me.
Right, none of that shit.
In fact, now that I think about it, he was actually pretty popular with his students because they kept coming around to visit him at our house for years after they would graduate. So my dad's a good guy.
That's cool.
But I was glad that I didn't have to be in one of his classes.
Yeah.
Probably would have been a drag.
So, I for some reason, I just keep popping, Chris Cornell keeps popping into my mind, because you worked with him too, right? Like
Yeah.
He produced one of your records, or?
He co-produced the first record we did for Epic.
Right.
And,
The Screaming Trees?
yeah.
How did that come about?
Came about because his soon-to-be wife was our manager.
Uh-huh. Oh, I see.
And also, I was really paranoid about making a major label record, especially at the time when, like, hair metal was king.
Right.
Because this is sort of before...
Pre-Nirvana?
Yeah. And...
Soundgarden was already out?
They were signed, Alice in Chains were signed, and we were signed.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And...
And they were kind of like...
we all had the same manager.
Yeah.
Which was Chris's first wife, Susan.
And they were at sort of the top of the food chain, Soundgarden, right, at the time? Or
Alice in Chains was, actually.
Alice in Chains
because
was?
they were the first band to really hit huge out of Seattle with their first record.
They're great.
They're the one band that I still would listen to and
Yeah.
not be depressed.
Yeah.
From
love
that
them.
era. Me
Yeah.
too. Well, Layne Staley was, one of the best friends I ever had. And
What was he like? He's interesting to me, like,
dude, he was magical.
Yeah.
Really, really.
What made him magical?
Just, he had a real mischievous sense of humor, high intelligence.
Really?
And
He's such an interesting character.
I mean, a lot of this book I wrote is about he and I
Really?
hanging out. But yeah, he was just one of a kind. Mosh. A sort of, I mean, not to sound too corny or anything, but sort of otherworldly.
Yeah. I get that.
He was the most powerful singer ever, too. Like, you'd be standing on the side of the stage and you could feel, like his voice would just go through you. Bang.
Mm-hmm.
Cornell, on the other hand, was probably like the technically greatest singer I ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
He was really like, just, hey!
I love your dogs anyway.
Yeah, it's because you don't have to live with them.
Yeah, come on. Come on up here.
But both those guys were, real singers.
Yeah.
Like, I equate those guys' talent with, like, say Freddie Mercury or Rob Halford or, any of the greats from when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys had those kind of voices.
Yeah.
And Chris was also a really, really nice guy.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart. I actually got to hang out with him a few times. Like, we started becoming friends. Because at PJ20 I played there. I was starting to be in a band with Jeff Ament called R&DM, and then I made some live paintings, and they were in like the Pearl Jam dressing room for some reason, and I was back there, and Eddie and those guys were like going over their set list, and Chris came in and was like, "Who did these paintings?" And I was like, "Oh, those are mine." He goes, "Man, I know when something's good, and those are good." And I was like, "Thanks." And we exchanged numbers, and I was like, yeah, next time I'm in LA, like, yeah, let's get together or something. And then he was playing with Soundgarden in LA, and my friend wanted to go, and so I texted him and said, hey, and he put us on the list, and he put passes, and then Soundgarden threw down. It was killer. And then me and my friend, there was a big line to go into the VIP thing, and I was like, should we bail? And she was like, yeah, let's bail. And so we bailed, and then I texted him from the parking lot. I was like, hey, man, great show. Thanks so much. And he goes, where are you? Like, he was, like, down. Like, it didn't register that he really wanted to, like, kick it. Like, he was like, where are you? And I was like, oh, we left. But sorry, I didn't, And then, like, a couple days later, we went on a hike in Runyon. He came and picked me up in his, like, killer car, and we hiked Runyon a couple times and just had these like conversations about sobriety and stuff like that, and just kind of like we just started becoming friends. It was really unexpected. And he's another guy that's like kind of intimidating, in a way, or at least I thought of him as that, but so yeah, I got a chance to interact with him, and man, when he passed away, that really hit hard.
I didn't see that one coming.
Me neither. It's still bizarre to me to think about.
Me too. But then when I think about, like, my time spent with him, he was always, there's always a solitary lone wolf sort of side to him. But once you got in, like, his sense of humor, and he was incredible, really funny, and
very sweet. But then he would say something that was like, okay, you're for real, dude. Like, you are who you are, but like, yeah.
Did you ever collaborate with him musically other than that one time?
No, just, he was basically there just to hang out with me, and, sort of like,
make sure you didn't go off the rails.
Yeah, make sure I didn't tear the house down.
Yeah.
And it worked,
Yeah.
We just played basketball every day and just hung out. But he played me like some acoustic demos that ended up being like the Temple of the Dog stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, man, this is a fucking hit.
Right.
And he was like, what? I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It just blew me away. It's all those guys to me were like here, and
I equate you every bit up there, bro. Like, in my world, you're just there exactly. Like, but you know what's cool too? Because also what I like about you is you go against type in some ways with like. You're not afraid of drum machines and beat music and stuff like that. And I really respected Chris collaborating with Timbaland, even though he took a lot. And I got to tell him that when we went on that hike. Like, I was like, hey, man, I know you took heat for that record, but that's cool as fuck that you did that to me. I think it's cool when people take chances, artists take chances and do shit like that.
I do too.
Yeah.
And because he had already such a high profile, I think is why he took so much shit for that.
Yeah.
Had he been a nobody like me, no one would have cared. But
yeah, nobody.
But yeah, I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, That's so ballsy.
It's ballsy. It's like, that's punk rock. And people don't get it. Like, but that's the punk rock move.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
But so you like messing with the drum machines and all that too, right?
Yeah, mainly it's because I can never get along with drummers. But
or anyone else in your band.
But unless they're Belgium.
unless they're Belgian.
Unless they're from Brussels.
And actually,
unless they're related to Jean-Claude Van Damme. Then Mark loves them.
My drummer is Belgian. His name's Christophe.
See? Told you. Christophe Van Damme.
Christophe Kleiss.
But you know what, man? The other thing with drum machine beats, though, is there is... and this is something, too, that Peter Gabriel hit me to, which was... Because he put it to me like this, which is... There's a hardness to that doesn't exist with, like, a human drummer. And I love human feel and real drums. You know, if I had to pick one to use for the rest of my life, it would be human drums. But there is something to a drum machine. It's just tough. There's a toughness to it. And I bet you that has something to do with what drew Chris and probably draws you and draws me to it, too, and draws people to it, you know?
To me, there's nothing more badass than a 909, like, run through a fucking blue box or some other sort of distortion pedal. And
it's
just
dope.
Like, I love that.
Me too.
And if I had to choose, I would always choose a drum machine.
Me too, but I was lying just to sound cool to everybody. I just try to qualify, but really.
That's what my wife is out there doing right now, is running a 909 through some distortion.
Yeah, what kind of music is she making?
Just, you know, what they call it in the 90s, GABA music.
What is GABA?
It's like, I don't know, it was some sort of Dutch techno.
Oh, okay.
Where the kick drum is run through a distortion pedal and it's cranked, loud.
Oh.
Is that for your duo project?
For our band? Yeah, you know, she writes some music, and luckily it's one of those situations where almost everything that she writes, I can immediately come up with a singing part to it, which isn't always the case.
Right.
I mean...
Yeah, speaking of which, when Peter Buck tried to give you...
Let's hear that story.
Let's hear that story. Man on the Moon, what happened? You thought it was Stairway to Heaven?
I thought it was Stairway to Heaven. I didn't see the potential. He got me.
He got you. I find it easy to write with his riffs, man. I love writing to his riffs. I mean, he's like the greatest riff writer.
It was the mountain of them.
Yeah,
that they piled
dude,
on me.
Man on the Moon.
I know.
You had it in your palm of your hand.
If only I was Michael Stipe and had written like him.
Yes, I often find myself saying, "If only I was Michael Stipe."
That was the absurdity of that comment. Was, of course it's a hit.
Yeah,
Michael Stipe wrote the words.
Yeah.
Had I written something to that piece of music, I doubt very highly it would have been a hit.
Yeah.
But hey.
Well, so far me and Peter have written one album and we haven't got a hit yet, so you might be onto something. But I got high hopes for our album number 2.
He is a master at setting up a song for a singer.
Yeah.
Like those progressions. I mean, he knows how to, you know.
It's perfect.
It's
and
tailor-made for a singer.
It's tailor-made, and it's also like what I found, like, well, I was a huge REM fan anyway, like back in the day when I first started writing songs. Like, it was Nirvana and REM that I would listen to a lot. And yeah, when I started writing with Peter, like, my tendency was to like just do elongated, like, real simple melodies, because his melodic voicings on guitar, so it's so intricate and melodic that they sing for you, and all you gotta do is hold a note, and it's like, and the song just kind of happens.
Yeah, it's
real cool.
I had a little trouble because of the melodious nature of his playing. It was tough for me to find room.
You have to sustain simple things with it. That's what I found. And I would sometimes go like, okay, I'm sounding a little too REM-ish here, but it's hard.
How can you not?
Yeah, it's hard. I was like, people are going to say I'm trying to be like, but it's like, it's this guy. Yeah. It's like
it's the guy who wrote all their music.
Yeah.
You can't avoid it.
It was hard, you know. I think we've avoided it a little bit, but yeah, it's in there for sure. What was it like working with Kurt Cobain? I mean, he was a huge hero of mine.
We were really good friends, and when we tried to create together, it was difficult.
Clash of the Titans.
No, it was the opposite.
Two nice guys finishing last.
Two nice guys finishing last. Nobody wanted to be the shot caller.
Right. You needed an alpha. Maybe.
Well, he was a fan of mine. That's how I met him.
Okay. So
we had a mutual friend. He asked me to go to the show to meet his best friend, who was a singer and was a fan of mine.
Right.
And that's how I met him. But I recognized immediately that there was a huge difference between, his talent and what I had going. And
I think you underrate your talent, dude.
Well, I'm talking like 1988.
Yeah.
So if you hear the records I made in the 80s, they're
yeah.
They're not overrated.
Right. Okay. I mean, he was incredibly talented. Not that you aren't, but he was one of the greatest songwriters ever.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
And I mean, I recognize that almost immediately.
Yeah.
And looking back on it now, when I think about us being in the studio together, he was reticent because of his respect for me.
Right.
But I didn't. I was used to taking control of every Screaming Tree session, because otherwise it was a shit fest.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I was the least musically proficient member, just like by force of will, I had to sort of somebody had to hold the reins.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no need to do that in a situation with Kurt, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so both of us were just kind of non-engaged.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But, well, you know what I think infected a lot of people back then, and, I got signed in the mid-'90s, so I'm back then too. It was, we were all cool, but we were all kind of too cool or something, or disengaged maybe was cool or something.
This was more like...
Yeah, that wasn't it.
No.
I as soon as it came out of my mouth, I'm like, nah, that's not what it is.
No, it wasn't that. It was two nice guys finishing last. and then one of them becoming not so nice and finishing first.
Right.
He
always was nice.
Did you
actually
when he finished
write
first?
some songs?
Yeah, that's cool.
No, we didn't. We never.
It was like a Lead Belly thing.
Yeah, it was like
happen.
a covers thing.
And then what? And it was like SST. He wanted to be on SST, but they didn't get it. How did they not get it?
Dude, come on.
I know. How do you not?
Sub Pop didn't even fucking get it, dude.
What wasn't to get? Just
that's what I said.
How great the songs were.
I'll never forget going with Kurt to see him opening for Tad and this band called Blood Circus. It was on Sub Pop.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, the Trees were already on SST. And so Bruce and John, the guys who owned Sub Pop, were always like, hey, man, when are you going to come make records for us?
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, so you came to see Blood Circus, huh? And I'm like, no. Tad? I'm like, Tad's a nice guy, but I'm here to see Nirvana, man. They're the best band that you guys got. In fact, they're one of the best bands I've ever seen. And I remember, I never forget the way they looked at each other,
really?
What?
That's just wild.
And then cut to six, maybe 8 months later, when I'm actually signed to them now as a solo artist, and I'm going to meet them to talk about artwork or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I can hear them inside the warehouse. It's after hours. Bruce is raising his voice, and he's like, God damn it, is Nirvana the only fucking band we have that's going to ever sell any records?
Right.
I'm like, oh, you get it now, huh? Greg Ginn at SST, I sent him cassettes twice of Nirvana, because that's how we got signed to him, was by giving him a cassette.
Right. That's how I got signed, with a cassette to Peter Gabriel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lou Reed.
The
Didn't Lou Reed give your tape to Peter Gabriel?
No. He recorded my first audition tape with his DAT machine.
wow.
Yeah, Peter Gabriel brought Lou Reed, and then Lou and I was a bass player, and I just had started doing the singer-songwriter. I was faking it like a motherfucker, like totally. And then Lou Reed came in. I was like, okay, I can't with this. Like, because with Peter, I was like already prepared myself. But then when Lou showed up with the Fez, I was like,
Oh my God.
I went up to the bathroom and just got on my knees and prayed. I just prayed to God. I did. And then I went on stage, and I like don't remember anything. I got off and I walked right to Lou, and Lou was like, I like that song King of Hide and Seek. And I didn't have a song called King of Hide and Seek. but
Whose set were you watching?
No, but I had a lyric in one of the songs where I said King of Hide and Seek. And actually, man, I should name my new record King of Hide and Seek. That'd be rad.
That's a good title.
It is a good title. Maybe that'll be the name of my memoir.
That's what I was going to say. That's a good book title.
That's my memoir title, King of Hide and Seek. Wow, there it is.
You nailed it.
So wait, but let's go back to this Kurt Cobain thing.
Oh, anyway, yeah, Greg Ginn just didn't get it.
Yeah.
You know, I talked to him like 3 times on the phone, and talking to him was really difficult because he would put these huge pauses in every sentence, like unnaturally long pauses.
Was that like a manipulative tactic?
I don't know what it was.
Because that is like something people do to make you pay attention to what they're gonna say next.
You got me.
You know, I've heard of that shit. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but he wasn't buying those guys.
That's interesting.
And luckily for them, he didn't, because
yeah,
as it turned out, you know, Bruce and John were.
It all worked out the way it was supposed to.
Exactly.
Interesting. Well, yeah, let's cut to like when you were with the Queens of the Stone Age and you were only singing like a few songs a night. What was that like, touring and just being in that? I mean, because Rated R was that was the first album you went with them, right? Rated R, was that it?
On the last tour that they did on that record, I went out with them, and then
that's a great record, Rated R. That's when I discovered them.
Yeah.
Nicotine, Volume, Psychedelics, Marijuana. Anyway, that one, I love that. That's a blues song.
It's a good record. Yeah. I think I was on all of the records except for the last one and the first one.
Mm-hmm. And what was it like touring with them and only singing a few songs? Did you like that? Or did that drive you crazy?
At first it was like, what? This is weird.
Yeah.
You know, and just doing a third of the songs.
And then you realized you were the king of the castle because you just like...
Dude, it was the best job ever.
Right.
I fell right into it. It was
That's
like,
amazing.
I was so bummed when I got fired.
How'd you get fired? I thought you quit.
Nah. It was by mutual agreement.
Right. Well, it ran its course, probably.
That was it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was something that I couldn't... It's not something you can sustain forever, the guest singer.
Yeah.
But
it's cool that it lasted as long as it did. I always thought that was cool.
When it was the three of us, when it was me, Nick, and Josh doing like a third of the set every night.
Yeah.
It was a special thing then. I mean, it's still special. It's great.
Yeah.
One of the best bands I've ever seen and been lucky enough to be part of. But but yeah, when it was set up like that, it was then it made sense.
Yeah.
But it was too easy, you know what I mean? Like, I realized that I needed to
expand.
I needed to do something else, you know?
Yeah. And now you like doing, like, you still work with other people, but are you more focused on solo stuff, or what? What do you think?
You know, I do stuff when it comes along.
We should do something sometime.
Joe, you are a serial collaborator, like I am.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, let's get this party started, bro. I don't know what we've been waiting for.
We've been too busy working with other people.
That's true.
Everybody else.
No, man, we should do a track anyway.
I would love that. Well, we have, technically.
Yeah, that's true.
Gutters.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was your MO with Dooley and Twilight. You would come out for like 3 songs and go back to the dressing room.
Well, it's because he learned it from seeing me with the Queens. And actually, it was because of Greg that I started doing music again, because I had stopped.
How long did you take a hiatus for? 10 years? Not that long.
I took a hiatus from my own stuff for 8 years.
I've been on a hiatus myself. I'm coming back into it, even though I'm still doing collaborative stuff. But I'm about to do my first solo album in 5 years, something like that. It's been a minute, and I've been off the road, doing things like starting podcasts and shit.
You're doing the smart thing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't make a solo record for 8 years.
Right.
But in that time, I worked with Greg. I only didn't do music for about a year, and then he kind of forced me to go out and play with Twilight Singers.
Yeah.
So that got me back into it.
I remember, I think that's like one of the times when I met you was like you had been just coming off a painting job too, and it came over to Greg's and I was over there recording on something. You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had the mic set up there in the living room.
You have like 11 solo albums, right? Am I around the ballpark? But are any of those because you had...
Are any of those any good?
No.
That was the joke I wanted to make, but I wasn't going to. But that's what it sounded like. Are any of those...
The setup was too good.
The setup was right there. It was like, dude, well, that's on a T-ball. I'm not going to hit that because it's like...
No, that's not what I was going for, right?
Oh, shit.
Were any of those because you had like a contract and you had to like supply records? Okay, so there is something of that sort in there.
Yeah, there was.
Who did you owe albums to?
I owed albums to Sub Pop not once but twice. I signed 2 deals with them.
Listen, MO, you signed stuff without looking.
Yeah, and then I signed with Beggars Banquet, which became 4AD. I made 3 records for them, and then I wised up and just make records on my own label now and license them through.
That's what I'm doing too. That's the thing.
You got it on your masters, man.
Yeah.
You know, but luckily the guys I worked with in UK, Heavenly,
Yeah.
who was the guy who runs the company, was an old publisher of mine. So he, was a supporter and a fan for a long time. And once I was free of the Beggars thing, he actually encouraged me just to license the records through him.
Yeah.
Instead of signing some ridiculous deal.
That's a friend.
Yeah, I know.
That's a fucking... You've got some good guardian angels that actually exist on the planet. Like, dude that helped you with the memoir. What's his name again?
Mishka Shubely.
Mishka Shubely.
Shubely.
And then this other guy. That's heavyweight stuff right there. Both those things are really good fortunes.
Greg and Duff.
And Greg, yeah, but I'm just saying like on the business level too, but yeah, artistically too.
I have been lucky. I've been really lucky. My wife is into this Hindu astrology.
Oh man, dude, I just had a reading of that recently. That's incredible stuff.
She pinpointed, she goes, what happened to you when you were 32? I know what happened to you when you were 40. Like, those were like my 2 worst years.
Yeah.
When like real bad shit happened to me. And she just found that by going through my chart.
Yeah.
Like, they can basically pinpoint the day that you die.
It's unfucking believable.
It's uncanny.
It's spooky. I can hip you to a lady who did my whole reading, and it blew my mind. It was just like, okay, like this is crazy. After a few things she said, she was like, okay, well, you're either moving or you're about to move. And I was like in Mexico in my new apartment, it was just like wild shit like that. Well, what happened when you were 32?
32 was my year of homelessness.
Wow.
And
That's wild.
Actual homelessness.
actual
I don't know
homelessness,
anybody
yeah.
that would say homelessness without
no, I
being
mean,
actually homeless. No, bro, I like had a 1-bedroom apartment, but for me that was
yeah.
homeless, bro.
You know. Fucking
I mean, dude.
studio apartment.
Bro,
Fuck that's homeless.
If you don't have a 2-car garage, dude, you're homeless, bro. This is LA. Imagine if that's so. Wait a
What were you doing musically back then?
Hold on, I want to go into homelessness,
Yeah,
dude.
go,
This
please.
is like, are you kidding?
I mean, actual homelessness.
Yeah, like actual homelessness. What happened there?
Well, I couldn't pay my rent.
Dude, I'm curious about this because this nearly happened to me a few years ago, actually. I had 6 eviction notices, and I had to sell off most of my equipment to make it through. And then I got then the Peter Buck thing came through, and then I got a publishing deal, and then boom, 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 I'm back on my feet. But dude, it was fucking close.
Yeah.
No, for real. Like, and I had nobody that could bail me out.
Right.
No contact with family of origin type shit, dude.
No safety net.
No safety net, and still no safety net. Hence the podcast. Hence you know, like stuff that you like. It actually drives you towards like really getting your shit together. Like hence sobriety without fucking around with it. Yeah. Sobriety without being like, oops, I fucking relapsed again. I'm gonna get it together. Like once you go that way, it's like you see the real bottom of it, and you're like, so. How did it get to that?
Well, I got to that through years of, addiction and
Right.
just that was my bottom.
Right.
That was 97.
So for a year
Almost a year.
in LA or
No, in Seattle.
in Seattle,
Where,
where you must have been known and recognized too. Like how crazy.
I always told myself nobody would recognize me the way I looked then.
Yeah, I always tell myself that too when I'm up to no good. Nobody notices me.
But I remember one day I was like standing on the street with like a mouthful of balloons. I was selling on the street for some guy, and I heard like a car went by and somebody said my name, and I was like, "Fuck!
Wow.
How could they recognize me with this huge beard and this like, long dreaded hair?"
Right.
But somebody did.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was rough times.
How did you pull out of it?
Well, I had to leave town because some people
We're after you.
yeah.
For money.
Yeah, for some shit I had done, and there was also this cop that had asked me to leave town, and
Probably doing you a favor.
doing me a favor, yeah,
Right.
and I didn't do, I didn't do that until like the very last minute, and somebody had left something at this pawn shop, some literature about the MAP program, musicians assistance.
I know MAP. I wound up at MAP too in LA. This was another whole dark period in the 90s, but I wound up I don't know if you can't really say the name. We might have to edit this out, but Paul Williams from the Love Boat.
Yeah, he was my was my group leader.
He was awesome. He was my group leader too, dude.
He was great.
I know, he was cool as hell.
He was my favorite one.
And Jeff Buckley's mom too.
Yep.
Yeah.
She was also there.
Yep.
In the office.
Dude,
There.
that's crazy.
Yeah, Buddy Arnold.
That's Buddy Arnold, yeah.
And I just went like into the pawn shop. I was like, what was it that it was actually Courtney Love that had left that literature for me at the pawn shop.
That's amazing.
I was like, what was that thing that Courtney left here?
Yeah.
He's like, this. And I was like, will they get me out of town someplace warm? He's like, let me see. And like 10 minutes later, he had me on a flight to LA.
Thank God for that place, man.
Yeah.
That might have saved your life.
It absolutely did.
Thank God for it. I think it might have saved my life.
I know it did mine.
Yeah. Who would have thought that little guy in the Love Boat saving lives?
Paul Williams is a genius songwriter.
Total genius, yeah.
He's written some amazing tunes, too.
That's true. Yeah. fuck, dude, I'm glad you made it out of that. But like, don't you think like experiences like that, like, is that in your memoir too?
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. I mean, I think like, again, it's just, it kind of goes back to what I was sort of softball saying about at the beginning, which is like, you know, not being in an ivory tower with just like piles of money pouring on you. It's so interesting, all like the struggles that we go through in this journey, you know, like that like when you look back and like now you're here and things are cool, and you, not that you don't have your things you're dealing with, of course, this is life, but like it's kind of neat when you think about what you get through.
Absolutely. You know, it's, I've always thought I was really, really lucky to not have the kind of huge success that some of my friends had.
Right.
Because it probably would have, you know, either A, done me in, or I just wouldn't have been motivated to work, and I'd go sit on the beach somewhere. You know what I mean? And who wants to do that, really?
It's boring.
I have to work.
I mean, I love sitting on the beach. I don't find it boring, but if it was my only thing...
I was going to raise my hand.
Oh, okay. Now it's passive aggressive, Ehud. Oh my God!
You guys are great.
It's a good two-man act, isn't it?
It's amazing.
All right, well, go ahead, Ehud. You got...
I would want us to be on the beach. That's all.
Oh, you'd want to be on the beach.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that about you at all, dude. You're the hardest working person I fucking know. Seriously. And like, I know hardworking people, and you are outrageously hardworking, and you say shit like that. And you also say you don't have like a spiritual connection, but everything you do is so spiritual based. Music, like 1 million sessions, one-on-one. Who does that? Just out of passion. But do you have like a connection with like spirituality? Like, I know like maybe like program stuff or whatever, but like do you pray or anything like that, or meditate or any of that kind of thing?
I've never been a meditator. I guess I do at times. I've done this thing, I guess you'd call it focused prayer.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like what the fuck do you call it? A mantra.
Oh, right.
You know, and usually it's just to get me to quit thinking about something that's
Yeah.
you know, keeping me awake.
What's that mantra?
It can be
Anything. I like this metacognition technique, which is like, if I'm afraid, you ask yourself, who's afraid? And then you say, who's asking who's afraid? And you just keep up leveling to where you become the observer of your own thoughts. And then you, like, as soon as you're the observer, then you're like at least outside of that train wreck going on in your brain.
That's a good one, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, you know, really the only reason I ever started praying was because somebody suggested that it would quiet my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I found the more that I did it, the more it worked, and then
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have that, you know, noise all the time anymore.
Do you believe in God?
You know, I believe that there is a force that can intervene in the lives of certain men.
Mm-hmm.
Just because
Higher power.
I've had an experience of that sort. But I'm also like staunchly anti-religion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just think that religion is the biggest fucking lie, and sorry.
I'm not, dude. I don't know, man. People think I'm religious because I pray and stuff like that, but
I pray also.
yeah, but I don't. I'm like, dude, I get it. Like, I'm not like, what the fuck, bro? Like, you know, I'm not like that at all, dude. I'm a believer, but I also don't know. Like, it's faith based.
Yeah,
like, it's my faith, and it's more fun. And ever since I was a kid, I just believed, and that helped me get through what I had to get through. So that's been with me my whole life, and it still is. But dude, like, I could be wrong. Like, and it's not like I'm like, what the fuck? If somebody's an atheist, I understand. It doesn't seem reasonable to me to think something comes from nothing, but
Yeah.
But it's fair enough. There's definitely reason to believe that something doesn't give a fuck about us.
Of course.
There's those reasons, but there's also reasons to believe that something very much gives a fuck about us, you know?
I agree with both those statements.
Me too, you know?
Having half of my family Catholic,
Yeah.
and then another branch of my family, like in some religious cult that doesn't even have a name.
Uh-huh.
And then
Which one's that?
they don't have a
They
name.
don't, yeah.
That was my grandmother.
Uh-huh. But that's wild,
And
huh?
then another branch of my family, Jehovah's Witnesses.
Wild.
And I just think organized religion for me is just so much bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my opinion. But I'm not saying I don't believe that there's a God,
Yeah.
because I do.
I hear, I'm not even going to say it. It'd embarrass you if I say it, but your voice is godly.
Oh, come on.
It is, man. It is. Everybody knows that. Like, that's something everybody fucking knows. Mark Lanegan's voice is godly. That's in the dictionary under Captain Obvious. Everybody knows that, isn't that? But you know what? I gotta say, Ehud's gonna kill me for saying this because I bring this up at Ho'oponopono. Have you heard of this one? Dude, this is a mantra I use, which is, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And there's mantras on YouTube where you can just put it in your headphones and go running with it and all this other thing. I do this all the time, and it helps me, especially family of origin stuff, releasing and forgiving and breaking that old programming so that you can live from inspiration rather than from memory. And it's really powerful. There's this guy, Dr. Hugh Lin, who healed a whole mental institution of the criminally insane just by reviewing their files and taking full responsibility for every mental illness he read about. It's real woo-woo stuff.
Wow.
But it's about taking full responsibility for everything that's happened to you in your life. And it's about, like, owning it all and just, like, yeah, like, it's a powerful, you know, mantra, and it really does release something. It's really something I recommend. But you know, just if you're interested in mantras, that would be one to investigate. I can send you some links on that.
Yeah, I'm so fucking ignorant when it comes to YouTube and
Oh man, I've learned everything off of YouTube.
all the possibilities. I just know because my wife is constantly watching the Hindu stuff.
Yeah, like that, like all that kind of stuff. Like I watch gurus on there and everything. Like, you know, it's really incredible. You're even on there.
Yeah, through somebody's phone.
No, there's good interviews with you and stuff like that.
Oh God. Well, hopefully this will be one of them.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate you doing it, man.
Joe, it's been great talking to you.
It's been so
Love seeing
wonderful.
you, bro.
I have two questions.
Okay. Thanks for letting us in your home too, man.
Hey,
it's wonderful
anytime.
here. Yeah, really appreciate it.
It's you know, sort of homeless, but
Yeah, I mean, for me, this would be homeless. Go for it.
So just one is gonna be a little on the darker side, and one's gonna be on the lighter side. So it's also been like a year since Anthony Bourdain died, and one of your songs was a theme song to his show, and he had you on his show, and it seemed like he had a lot of admiration for you, and I'm assuming it was mutual. How was your relationship with him, and how did you take that?
well, he was the other guy that talked me into writing the book.
Wow.
Okay.
And so, you know, halfway through it, sending chapters to him.
Wow.
And that's when he decided to take off. So, yeah, that's did not see that one coming either.
How long did you know him?
I only had met him through the song. He knew Josh, and Josh turned him on to my music, and he became a big fan. And then he asked for Josh and I to write the theme together to the new show. And so I talked to him then, and then just started a email relationship. And when he read the lyric book to do like a blurb, he ended up doing like, you know, basically reviewed the entire book and my entire catalog in his blurb, which was
Right, well, he's a great writer.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And I was a huge fan of his book.
Mm.
And then he just started, you know, leaning on me to write this book. And he was the guy that talked me into writing the prologue, which I sent to him. And so, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
Man, you know, that's
That was a big-
everybody's
Everybody's
loss.
lost.
Yeah. I have a good friend who's obsessed with Anthony, and she took it really hard. Really hard.
I don't know anybody that, you know, didn't have some kind of connection to.
Yeah.
He was just such a fucking force, real positive force, in not just like, you know, in my life, but like in the world. Real heavy loss at a really bad time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like how he was getting into jiu-jitsu and getting all like super physically fit right there too. Like later in life, that was super inspiring.
Well, he was married to a woman who was like a martial artist.
I didn't know that. The episode of the show that you're on was really cool. I ended up seeing that.
I've still not watched it.
Yeah.
Okay, and the later question. Let's go back to 1996.
Oh my God. Dude,
Hold on. This is good because
Let's take this back to
toured-
1996.
you toured with Oasis.
Oh, shit. Okay,
And
I love
mean,
talking
and
about
come on,
Oasis.
and come on. And I know there was
I'm a
something
big
between
Liam
you and
yeah.
Liam. That's what I want. Like, is
I
the
love
story
Liam Gallagher,
true?
though.
And
He's
if
cool.
it's true, tell the story.
He's cool shit.
Well-
No or no?
I mean, Oasis, dude.
I love Oasis.
Listen, I loved Oasis too.
Loved. Past tense, I clocked that.
No, I loved their music.
Yeah.
He and I did not get along from the drop.
Right.
There's an entire chapter.
Did
in
he
my
say
book.
hello
Oh,
to
there
you?
is a chapter.
He didn't say hello.
No.
He said something else.
Oh,
But the first thing I said to him was, "Why don't you fuck off?"
wow.
So that's how that started.
What did he say to you? You don't want to go there.
It's in the book.
It's in the
Right.
book. Read
Yeah,
the
let's
book.
say
Like-
read it for the book. Yeah, don't give away all the diamonds.
That, like Dooley said, that chapter's the money.
Yeah. Oh, he said that about the Oasis one?
Yeah,
Well, I got to
that's
say, I'm
Oasis.
damn curious. Yeah. That's interesting.
So, but how was it touring with them in general? I mean, they were huge then.
He just sort of told
15,000.
Oh,
Yes.
really?
You know, seat
They weren't really
arenas.
huge
They weren't
in
huge in
America.
the States. Yeah.
No, well, this was in Europe that
Yeah.
you toured with
No,
them.
this
It was here?
This was in the East Coast.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So
Yeah.
we were doing like, you know, basketball arenas.
Got it.
Yeah.
It was unpleasant for me because I constantly was on the verge of wanting to kick the shit out of him, but he had two huge bodyguards with him at all times, constantly talking shit.
He seems like he's matured, though, as a, I don't know.
Well, I certainly didn't mature in my assessment of that time period in my book.
What
We
about-
can't end on this note.
And what about
Look where
Noel?
you've taken the interview, Avery.
What about-
I
what
was
about
going
Noel?
so well. It was
Okay,
like-
let's just pick a different subject.
It's my favorite chapter of the book. So
well, there you go.
See,
All right.
I was on to something.
Yeah, you were onto something.
What's next for Mark Lanegan?
what time is it?
It's almost
time
midnight.
to wrap.
Are you gonna have a cigarette? and
Yeah,
say
no, we're
goodnight to you
gonna
guys?
wrap
Well, let's
it
wrap it
because
up. But
it's
is there,
been
other than
2
your
hours.
memoir that's coming out in October?
Yeah,
No,
what,
the memoir's coming out next year.
Oh, next year.
and the album. When's the album coming
Album's
out?
coming out in October.
Okay.
And that's when my album's coming out. What's your album called?
My album's called Somebody's Knocking.
Okay. I like it.
It's the front cover is a picture of the door knocker on my studio.
I noticed that when I walked up to the studio. I was like, "Where'd you get that door knocker? It's like the devil or something."
We
right?
got it from someplace, and the guy said, "I have to tell you that this thing supposedly is cursed."
Yeah, it looks like that, dude. I like.
So we bought it immediately. Cursed? Fuck yeah.
Somebody's knocking. What did he say? That was the end of it? Did it cost $666?
No, it didn't. I don't remember how much it was, but yeah, if anything's cursed, then we're definitely in the market for it. So,
Man, I'm too superstitious for that.
yeah, you know, a guy offered this. There's this man I know that makes this porcelain, like that head of Mishima over there, and
And there's a skull behind you too. That's pretty interesting.
yeah, he might have made a couple of those. He I was looking for this one piece of artwork that he had made, and he's like, I think I have one more left, and you're lucky because I made this one with human bones. And I was like,
I'll buy it.
Too much.
I don't want somebody part of somebody's body in my house that I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
say it's like, you know, whatever. My family members,
They can be.
their dust can be in a
Yeah.
jar in my house, I guess, if they want. But
Yeah.
I didn't like the idea of having somebody's bones in my house that I didn't know.
Nah. Let's get Liam Gallagher's bones out of here.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much, man.
My pleasure, guys.
Follow
It's been great
Mark.
talking to you guys.
Yeah, it's been really good.
On Instagram, on Twitter, Facebook, marklanigan.com. And support us on Patreon.
Yeah.
Listen on iTunes. Watch on YouTube.
See y'all later.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
My pleasure.
That was fun. Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/come to where I'm from. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated.